IFS Securities, a stockbroking firm on the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. And every Monday morning I go through what happened globally around the world and try to forecast what we may see this coming weeks. Of course, we use technical indicators as well as fundamental indicators, and using our mechanical system that tells us from various indicators what we might likely to see this coming week. I will show you how investors and traders can make money on our stock market. I'll show you what is hot, what is not, and what you should hold and what you should fold. And by the way, if you like the presentation, please by all means give us some feedback about how you feel about it. First of all, we start with the overseas market. As you can see here, over last week we've seen that the market in America was quite high by nearly 2%, 1.8 for the Dow, 2.3% for the Nasdaq, and nearly 2% for the broader S&P index. And when we compare what happened last week with the week before, we can see that the momentum is reasonably strong, because you can see that combining the 2 weeks together, we have even better performance. Now, in terms of the US dollar, and that is the index, we can see that the market over the last 2 weeks has pushed the US dollar by nearly 0.9%. And of course, on that case, the Australian dollar ended up being weaker by 1.1% last week. And part of that 1.1% was actually last week when it dropped by 0.4%. The sterling, and because we trade the sterling, we have 0.4% drop last week and 0.5 over the last 2 weeks. Gold, by the way, was down $6 last week in total. However, when you combine the 2 weeks together, the gold price was still high by $4 or 0.3%. Silver was weak by 0.2% over the last 2 weeks. And West Texas crude oil, about 6.7% drop over the last 2 weeks. Corn and of course soybean, actually, we know that soybeans is actually a commodity that China usually tries to buy from America, and by buying the American soybeans, obviously the price goes up or down. Well, last week soybeans was down by 1.7%. Okay, now in terms of our market is governed mainly by the ASX 200. That is our gauge, and it's made up by a certain extent by 2 major sectors, the financial and the materials. When both of these sectors are up considerably, the market responds accordingly. Well, the last 2 weeks, you can see here 1 week and 2 weeks, the financials were up by nearly 3.7%, and the materials were up by 4.4%. And guess what? The ASX 200, the whole market for the top 200 stocks, was up by nearly 5%. In terms of the stocks, you can see that most stocks were up, with the exception of Santos and Woodside Petroleum. Remember when we had a problem between Iran and the US, and there was a risk about the price of oil will go up. Obviously Santos and Woodside Petroleum did very, very well. And when the whole thing started to calm down, well, obviously there were the 2 stocks that had actually to come down because of the price of the oil. In terms of volume, you can see here the volume over the last 15 days. We like to compare the volume rise and fall with what's happening in the market. Up here you can see the percentage of all the stocks that rose versus all the stocks that actually declined. And you can see for the last 4 days, including Friday, the market was actually very strong and the advances were greater than the declines. However, you see on Friday the volume started to drop. Actually, that tells us that on Friday the market started to be sitting on the sideline or not as buying as much. When you look at advances and declines over week by week, you can see for the last 3 weeks we've had a very, very strong 3 weeks in our market. Okay, in terms of our mechanical system, we use 8 indicators on 2 time frames, and that tells us what happened over the last several weeks. As you can see, Even 4 weeks ago, we started to say that the price of the stocks in America were bullish, and that we continue right through. Well, this is actually, we did that on Saturday, and we don't have any reason to think that the market is going to drop or going to take a turn around, because the sectors, those indicators are telling us the market continues to be very strong for the investor, the conservative trader, aggressive trader, and the very aggressive trader. Each of those trade at a different time frames. Now, gold has gone from very bullish to slightly less bullish to started to be bearish for the very aggressive trader, and the very aggressive trader trades in and out almost daily. However, the long-term investor, and that, by the way, takes a long time for the indicators to perform, because they are mainly lagging indicators and use the monthly and the weekly, which is long terms, while here we use the daily and the hourly, and you can see here that the very aggressive trader is still very bearish on gold and silver and crude oil. And the Australian dollar, again, for the very aggressive, bearish, and bullish for the American dollar. And if you want to trade the British pound, we are bearish for both aggressive trader and the very aggressive trader. The difference between aggressive and very aggressive is the time frame and how fast and how frequently you trade. Now, this is actually the chart for the Dow Jones, as you can see here. For several weeks, nearly about 15 weeks, the market has been going up and up and up and up and up. And every week we can see new all-time highs exceeding all-time high with new records. And our market, by the way, has followed the same thing. I'll see you the chart in a minute. This is the daily chart, with the exception of one day. The last 7-8 days, all green candles, very bullish. Now, in terms of our predictions, if we look at the weekly performance versus the daily, obviously, if you look at not last Saturday, but the Saturday before, and see how the market performed during the full last week. So we were actually saying the All Ordinary were very bullish for all investors and aggressive traders. And guess what? We were right. All week, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday and Tuesday, all ended up very strongly bullish. Now, what have we said here in terms of the ASX 20? Well, the ASX 20 was still bullish. Everything was bullish with the exception of industrial. Industrial was actually neutral on Saturday, not last Saturday, but the Saturday before, and the market ended up performing exactly as we predicted. The other thing, financials, we started with neutral, and we've gone bullish eventually, and we find that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it continued to be performing the same way. So if you were a long-term investor, and we told you last Saturday week, that's 2 weeks ago, and we told you that you are neutral and continue to be neutral, then obviously you will remain neutral for the financials. And the same thing for gold. We were actually bullish on Saturday 2 weeks ago, and the market continued to be bullish for the aggressive and the very aggressive trader. If you want a copy of this slide, all you have to do is call us and we'll send it to you. This is our market, the ASX 200. You can see here the last 2 weeks have been very, very good 2 weeks. And here again, like the American market, over the last 10 days, only one red, or actually 2 reds, and mainly green candles. This is actually our stocks performance. What we predicted, the ANZ, we said was going to be bullish for the very aggressive. However, for all the other traders and investors, you stay on the sideline. And Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, our prediction on the weekly ended up exactly the same for the daily. We said CIMIC was bearish and we ended up bearish, except on Thursday things turned around from bearish to bullish. Macquarie Bank, we said we were very strongly bullish, and right through the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we ended up following up our prediction for what we said on Saturday 2 weeks ago. Telstra, we actually said we are bullish for the aggressive and very aggressive trader, and we ended up also being bullish. However, we brought the conservative trader and the investor into the market on Monday, and we continue to be very bullish. If you look at what happened on Saturday, our prediction said that we are still bullish across all traders and investors. Woodside Petroleum, we ended up being bullish for some reason. Again, maybe lagging indicators. Appen, by the way, was actually the most active stock last week, with 4.4% rise in Appen. Fortescue Metals was behind it, 3.7%, A2 Milk, Northern Stars. So all did have very good performances. 52 weeks, we've got some stocks that we need to look at. They actually hit the all-time high, 52 weeks high, as you can see here. So with very big percentage change in the price. Like for instance in here, EHR Resources went up by 5 cents. That is nearly 50% from where it was a week before. We've got Everdale Resources, 14%, but remember, if it's not painted blue, it means it's less than 10 cents, the stocks, and therefore we don't like to trade anything below 10 cents. Oliver's Real Food, 10 cents, 13% rise. As you can see here, that's actually the percentage rise sorted by highest and lowest. In terms of what stocks went down, again you got Red River Resources. If you want to have a look at that, it dropped 20% with 20 million volume. Alright, again, if you want a copy of these stocks, all you have to do is call us and we'll send it to you. Top gainers, again, we look at the market and see the top gainers, and again, please focus on the ones that happen to be painted blue, because they are the ones above 10 cents that we like to trade. Volume, we chase the stocks with higher volume. CSL had a very good week last week. The price went up by 0.3% and the volume was nearly 10% above the moving average volume. As you can see, over the last 50 weeks, the average weekly volume was 3.8 million, and last week we had 4.2 million trades executed. For those who are a lot more aggressive, Orocob, Data, A3, Karoon and MyState were all higher in volume and increase in the price as well. Over the full week and from around the globe, we start with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which makes up the top 30 US stocks, had a weekly increase of 0.7%. Gold on Saturday was trading at $1,563, up $9 over the week. And by the way, Bitcoin was trading at 8,138. Over the week was up 710 US dollars. And for the Australian conversion, it's about 11,802. The trade that we did in CFDs, again, we had a good week last week. And again, if you want a copy of this, all you have to do is call us. Our disclaimer, we don't know your financial circumstances, so obviously before you take any action here, everything we said to you is only for general advice only, and we don't know your financial circumstances, so please talk to us or your financial advisor before you take any action. If you have any questions, all you have to do is ask, and these are our details. You can write to me at george at fssecurities.com.au, or you can call me on my mobile. I'm available almost 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're ringing from overseas, you put 61 first. The 61 is the country code. You don't need the 0. So it's 61-411-259526. Happy trading, and I'll speak to you again next week.